Hey Facebook Live community. So nice to be here with you today. Amazing community of High Atlas Foundation, our friends, our family, our fans. My name is Katie and I'm a project manager with the High Atlas Foundation here in Morocco. I'm currently doing this live broadcast here from Fez, and I hope you'll be patient with me because it is the very first time I ever do such a thing. In fact, it may be the first time that I intentionally put a video of myself on the internet. So I'm really glad to have one viewer for now. I am not quite sure if I can see comments and how they'll come in. So as you come in, please let me know who you are, where you're from, and how you're doing. Again, if you're just joining, I see that I have 4 viewers now. Wow. My name is Katie, and I'm a project manager with High Atlas Foundation. Today, I'm really excited to be talking with you a little bit about a participatory tool that we use with communities that you can also use in your daily life, in your professional life on a macro or on a micro scale in order to address challenges that you might face and find solutions for yourself and the people you care about. So again, I'm Katie. This broadcast, if this is your first time tuning into one of our broadcasts, the High Atlas Foundation is really kind of trying to take advantage of this time. We're all fortunate enough to be able to work from home during this time while we're kind of under this period of lockdown here in Morocco. So that combined with the fact that this month is Earth Month, and next week is the 50th anniversary of Earth Day, we wanted to be able to commemorate it in a way that was engaging for people who care about us and who support us. So thus we have coordinated this effort where every day, Kul Nahar, one of our staff members will broadcast live from the High Atlas Foundation Facebook feed to share a little bit more about the work that we do and how we do it, and how you might be able to do it with us. So I would love to know a little bit more about you and who you are and where you're tuning in from, so I can just kind of get a feel of the room. Working with High Atlas, we often facilitate groups of people, and so it's really common for us to start with icebreakers. Not everybody loves an icebreaker, but at least with the group of students that I've been working with here in Fez, an icebreaker is kind of a new concept, and it's a fun way to break the ice. And it's also a great way for a facilitator to better understand who their audience is and who they're working with and how to better communicate with them. So, for example, if I should be communicating with you more in Darija, the majority of this presentation, of this session, of this gathering and this time together, I'll probably be speaking English because it's the language I'm most comfortable with. But if you prefer or have a question, I can try to do my best to speak in Darija if need be. Just tell me. But if you have a comment in Arabic, it might take me some time to get to it. So it definitely won't be right away. So without further ado, what I'd like to do today is talk about drawing trees. Now, I don't want to take up a lot of your time. And why would we be drawing trees? What is that about? I'm sure it's a concept that several of you are familiar with, maybe you've worked with before. And the concept is tree diagrams. As you may know, the High Atlas Foundation really focuses and prioritizes its energy into using a participatory approach and a participatory method toward all of its projects where it works side by side with communities and helping participants or engaging participants to kind of own that process from start to finish, from gathering information and identifying problems to actually setting action plans and implementing projects. Participatory approach is something that a lot of organizations do and even businesses may do to be able to better engage a customer base, and to promote sustainability in efforts so that they don't just go away after a project is finished, so that those efforts continue to live on and on to benefit and positively impact the lives of the people that they're meant to inspire and impact. Now, I'm not going to talk at length about the participatory approach because I know my colleague Rashid will be talking more about it next week, I believe on Earth Day, April 22nd. So I'll let him do the explaining. But what I want to do today is just talk about one very specific tool so that we can join in together in drawing trees. Now, if you are with me here today, I'd love for you to participate, not just by commenting, but also by doing some of the drawing and drawing trees. So if you don't have a piece of paper or a pen with you right now, I encourage you to take a second to get that, so that you can follow along and engage and take notes throughout the process. Now, what is a tree diagram? It's a really, really simple tool that a lot of organizations and businesses use, but there are many different types of tree diagrams. And my goal today is kind of to give like a brief introduction to a very simple way to use these tools, the way that we might use them on a community level to identify and build and design and implement projects here in Morocco. But they're also simple enough tools that they can be adapted on a smaller scale level, on the household level, where you can implement them with your family, draw trees with your families and think through your challenges with them, or even on a personal individual scale. Now, yes, it's important to note that this tool is often used as a way to build large-scale action plans, to build log frames. If you work in the development field or write proposals, it's a good foundation for starting to understand what your plan of action is and why it's important. Why are you doing it? And how is it going to create the biggest long-lasting impact that it can for the people that you're trying to benefit? So today I want to talk about two different kinds of tree diagrams. One is typically called a problem tree. I prefer to call it a challenge tree just because the connotation is a little more positive and upbeat and optimistic. But a second type of tree that goes along with it as kind of a step two is a solution tree, which can also be called an objective tree. Now, when we're planning our projects, there are steps before this and there are steps after this. But these two trees, they can really resemble kind of a large chunk of that planning and that identification of what it is that we need to do to really get to the root of our challenges and how to find solutions for them. Again, if you're just joining, my name is Katie, and I'm talking a little bit about a participatory tool that we can use to address challenges that we face and identify solutions for them. إلى راق معايا في المغرب وما مرتاحش باللونجلاي ديالك ماشي مشكل، غير بقى معانا ويلا عندك شي سؤال غير قولها لي في الكومنتار ونحاول نترجم لكم. مرحبا. All right. So pressing on, I will kind of show you what a tree diagram might look like, and I'll be starting with a challenge tree that I drew from scratch. So if you have your pen and your paper, go all out. So of course you know what a tree looks like. This is the tree that I drew this morning, and I do apologize. My computer ironically crashed this morning as I was preparing this presentation, so I'm gonna have to hold my phone and I hope it's steady while I do it, but that's itself a challenge. So here we have a tree, and why is it called a challenge tree? And I am aware that all of the words are backwards, and I'm really sorry about that, but I hope that I can help to explain so that it doesn't quite matter. that it is backwards. So we have a challenge tree here, also known as a problem tree. And why do we use a tree to represent our challenges? Because they're always roots of the challenges and of the problems we face. Where do our problems stem from? Where does the challenge come from? There's always a root cause. There's always a root cause, and it's imperative that we kind of identify those and talk about those in order to have a more full, comprehensive, complex picture of what the situation is before we can actually plan an intervention. Now, when you think about a tree, what's the function of a root? You know, the roots, they take in nutrients. They help the tree to grow. They stabilize the tree in the ground. And so this trunk here, this kind of really strong, unified point, this represents our challenge itself. So we can pick a challenge, any challenge, maybe not any challenge, but it can be a challenge at the global scale, the community scale, the household level, you know, with your family or with your housemates, or it can also be a personal, individual challenge that you see for yourself. And I'll give a couple of examples later so you can kind of get a better picture if you're not quite as familiar with this concept of tree diagramming. And hopefully we can do a little bit together as well. So again, please let me know how you're doing, how things are going, where you're tuning in from, if I should be trying to speak Darija. Let me know. So anyway, moving on, we've talked about the roots as being the root causes of the tree that then affect the growth and the strong kind of status quo growth of this tree that is our challenge. And from there, what happens? From the trunk and from the challenge grows these kind of, these like off spurts, the branches and the leaves that come from them. And what do they represent? They represent the impacts of this challenger, of this problem, or the effects, if you want to say. So I would be glad to answer any questions you have so far. I would like to go through this tree and give kind of a real life example. I'm really interested to know if what relates to us the most, what will be most useful for us as people. Will it be to kind of think on this global community level, something that's relevant to us at this day and age? Is it something that's more personal, or is it something that affects us as families and as households living together, especially during this time, but honestly at any time? What is it that we want to tackle first? I'll wait to see if I have any comments before I kind of move on and jump in to which level we want to address here. Do we want to look at a challenge from the community level? Do we want to look at it from the household level? Or do we want to look at it from the individual, more personal level? So if anyone has any opinion or preference, please let me know. And if you're commenting, I don't see your comments. So maybe nobody is commenting, and that's perfectly okay. Maybe that means that I should be trying to speak more slowly, or maybe it means I should be trying to speak more darija. دابا شنو نديرو؟ عندنا هاد الشجرة ديال المشاكل وبغينا نشوفو منها cause and effect، ياك السبب علاش كيوقع هاد المشاكل و effect شنو كيوقع حيت كاين حد مشاكل. وممكن نديرو هاد التمارين اما في واحد نيفو ديال المجتمع، ممكن نديرو غير ديال الدار، وممكن نديرو حاجه شخصيه غير على حساب. هي اصلا واحد نشاط اللي كنستعملوها في الخدمه ديالنا، فاش كنخدموا مع ناس ومع مجتمعات اخرين. ولكن هي واحد النشاط اللي واخا كنديرو هكاك في واحد مشروع كبيره ممكن نديرها. ماشي مشكل اللي عندك شخصي ولا مشكل اللي عندك في الحي اللي كان. It's very adaptable. It's a very adaptable exercise. So I think what we're going to do now, and I'm sorry if my hands are very shaky. I wasn't expecting to have to hold my phone. Oh, thank you, Sufyan. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks. I try. I don't have all of the words. ما عنديش كلمات كاملين ولكن كنحاول. زميلة خصنا نزيد نحضر بالعربية قولها لي. And I'll continue in English as well. One example maybe we can go ahead with, now that I see that I can see comments, is maybe a personal example or an individual example. I have a few to give. One challenge I definitely faced today was having my computer crash while working and preparing for this. But it's definitely not the biggest problem of them all for the world or for even me. So let's talk about something else, something that kind of affects lots of us. Thank you, Mimo. Yes, I'll go ahead and do an individual level. Something that affects a lot of us, I think, maybe not all of us, but is time management. On a personal level, I think ineffective or inefficient time management can be problematic. It can be problematic in our lives. It can affect our relationships. So what I'm going to do, let's see if we can do this here, is this trunk here. Let's see if this will work. Let me get another color. Let's try blue. All right. This trunk here, aha, it does work. Will represent the problem or the challenge that we're facing. So the example that I'm giving now for an individual level is ineffective time management. So what I'm going to do, and please draw this at home if you like as an example, and you can also go through your own challenges later, is ineffective time management. This is my main challenge, ineffective time management. And again, I'm sorry that it is backwards. I'm not fluent in backwards script. So ineffective time management, this is my main challenge. So what happens whenever I don't manage my time effectively? And of course, I'm not just talking about myself. I'm talking about many of us who might struggle with this. What happens if I don't manage my time effectively? Well, a few things happen, and they are the effects. It's the impacts of this problem, this challenge I have. So I'll go ahead and write them up here on the leaves because it's something that comes from the challenge that I'm facing. Something that definitely might happen is that I might be chronically, can you see? Chronically late. Maybe I'll just be late for lots and lots of things. Maybe I'll miss deadlines. Maybe I'll be late for in-person meetings, even things I want to be a part of. Maybe I will just continuously be late for them. And again, I'm not talking on a personal level. I'm talking about us all who struggle with time management from time to time. Maybe you'll be chronically late if you don't address your issue of ineffective time management. Another thing that might happen is that you may waste time. You may waste time. This is easy. This happens to all of us, especially in this day and age. I think a lot of us are frequently scrolling on our screens, especially if you're a millennial or younger. What is younger than a millennial? What is that generation? I don't know what generation it is. The younger generation. Constantly scrolling on phones. It's really easy to kind of waste time. And, there's kind of this stoic philosophy around time, and that any time that you're being active and pursuing something worth pursuing. It's a lifetime and you're being alive. And any time that you are kind of idly sitting around, not in a mindful way, but just in kind of a blasé way, or mindlessly scrolling. And I say mindlessly intentionally because there's a difference between being still in a mindful sense and being still in a mindless sense. But that mindless doing, not a lot of much, is considered to be dead time. So you're not actually actively participating in your life at that point. So I think a lot of us have this goal to maximize and optimize our lifetime. So that was just a side note and doesn't have to do really with challenge trees or problem trees. But it is an interesting aside, and it kind of makes you think a little bit more about your time and how you manage it. So far we have our two effects. We have being chronologically late, ممكن ديما كان تعطل ولا ديما كان تعطلوا, and we waste time. ممكن غير كنديروا الوقت ياك إلا ما كنديروش جستيون ديال الوقت ديالنا مزيان, إلا ما كنوجدوش الوقت مزيان ممكن غير كيضيع علينا. مهم. Okay, I'm gonna maybe say one or two more things that I think are kind of important. If we continue to ineffectively manage our time, maybe it affects our quality and quantity of work, right? So the kind of work that we could otherwise be doing if we really optimized our time and planned according to what works best for us and for other people, maybe that quality goes down, or the quantity of it might go down. And when I say work, I don't mean to only talk about the work that you get paid for. I mean any kind of work or personal pursuit or hobby. Because if I'm sitting here reading or sitting here meditating, I consider that to be a good use of time. But if I'm sitting here scrolling Facebook, I don't consider it to be a good use of time. There's a little bit of a difference there. One other effect that I'll talk about, which I think is really important, is that sometimes if we don't effectively manage our time, and maybe if you also have experienced this, you will know that either or maybe both, your reputation, maybe it will negatively affect your reputation. I don't want to say suffer, but possibly. Suffer is kind of a really heavy and strong word. But maybe your reputation with your peers, or with your coworkers, or in your colleagues, or maybe even your own family members. If you don't manage your time effectively, maybe it'll negatively impact your relationships and your reputation with them. Hand in hand with that, so I'm putting rep for reputation and rel for relationships. I'll also put self-image. And some of these might be secondary consequences or secondary effects, but for the purpose of this simple tree exercise, we're going to lump everything together. Because if I'm not managing my time effectively, and my relationships decline, and I'm wasting time, and I feel like I'm spending a lot of dead time, then maybe the image of myself won't be quite as high as it could or should be. And if you're anything like me, maybe you're a little too hard on yourself. Okay, so now what do we have? We have the trunk of the tree. This is our main problem, our main challenge, and we have these leaves that represent these effects we've talked about. Are there any other effects or impacts from managing our time ineffectively that you can think of that you want to share with us right now that we can add to the tree? I'll continue to look at the comments, so I'll go ahead and move on. But if you have other ideas that are related to this issue, let us know in the comments, and we can add on to the tree even after the fact. So if you're just joining, I'm Katie, and we are creating a challenge tree right now to be able to address a personal challenge in our lives. And right now, that challenge that we've selected is ineffective time management, something that I think a lot of people kind of deal with in their lives. So right now we've talked about the trunk, we've talked about the leaves, but the most important part that we need whenever we're trying to address problems and find solutions is looking at the roots of the tree. منين جاو هاد المشاكل؟ منين جاو؟ شنو هما أسباب؟ So we come down here to the bottom of the tree, to the roots, to talk about why am I managing my time ineffectively? Or why is this other person managing their time ineffectively? Or why are we collectively managing our time ineffectively? So هنايا في اللي غاسين كنسولو علاش كندير هادشي ولا علاش الا كنحضروا في شي واحد اخر علاش كيدير هادشي ولا الا رانا كاملين كنديروا هادشي علاش كنديروا هادشي منين جاو هاد المشاكل. So في حال المثال كنحضروا في الا ما كنستعملوش الوقت مزيان الا ما كنستغلوش الوقت مزيان علاش ما كنستغلوش الوقت مزيان شنو هما الاسباب. So some of these asbab, some of these root causes, some oh yes, being a teacher is really a gift. However, with time limitation you can't give more. Really, it's disappointed. You never know, can always hop on over, brother. But yes, teaching is a wonderful blessing of a profession. I wish I got to do more of it, actually. We'll continue, but feel free to continue letting us know what you're thinking and what your challenges are and how we can try to figure out solutions together. So again, moving on to roots. What are some of these reasons? There are several. I've kind of identified them ahead of time. I'm looking at my notes. Sorry if I seem a little distracted. I made several examples earlier today, and so I don't want to confuse anything. But some of them might be, for example, maybe you're employed, maybe you're working, and maybe your workload is either too heavy, you're working way too much, maybe you have more than one job, and it's not sustainable for you. Maybe you don't have enough energy, or maybe you don't have enough work. So you feel bored and understimulated and not challenged enough. Either of these can be problems to effectively managing our time. Either way, maybe we're not meeting our goals if we kind of suffer from this. So I'm going to write, if you can see, I don't know, inappropriate workload. So that can either mean working way too much or not enough. It just kind of depends on your situation. Another reason maybe we might struggle with time management is that maybe there are just frequent distractions, or maybe you haven't been able to set your own boundaries. So I'm going to go ahead and write that over here with this root over here. Sorry for the quality of this video. What did I say? Frequent distractions. So people are always bothering you, even if they're not bothering you, they're just distracting you. Frequent distractions, or not setting boundaries. Some of us, I think all of us really need boundaries, but maybe some of us might need them a little bit more to be able to accomplish more with our time and get more done and do more quality work. But that can be really difficult, you know. Maybe some of us live with our families, and how do you for example, the High Atlas Foundation staff, a lot of us are working from home, and I know some of our teammates may work from home where they live with their families, and that can be really distracting. Or sometimes even working in an office can be distracting. If I'm trying to write a book and anyone is around, I'm distracted. If I'm trying to write a book and there's Facebook in front of me, I'm distracted. So these distractions and these boundaries, lack of boundaries, I should say, can prove to be a real root cause of ineffective time management. And I'll go ahead and give one or two more. Maybe we have a lack. I don't know if you can see. Lack of organization systems or accountability. Some of us need these systems more than others. I think some people, thank you. Let's learn. Let's learn. Some people need probably more systems to be able to better organize themselves in their time. They might also need to implement more systems of accountability. Some people, in some situations, you might have too much accountability, but in some situations, maybe you don't quite have enough, and you need to be able to kind of tackle that issue to more effectively schedule your time. Maybe if you don't have enough built-in accountability or enough systems to organize yourself and your time, maybe you'll just continue to procrastinate forever and ever and ever. Another possible root cause may be that you just understand and value time differently than whatever the majority is or whatever situation you're in is. So, for example, maybe you don't think of time quite so strictly. Even culturally, sometimes time can be, we all know this, like time is probably different in Morocco than it is in the US, and it's different in the US than it is in Japan. Some cultures are more strict with time and others less strict with time. It took me a really long time to kind of grasp the fact, and living in rural Morocco previously, that I should probably base my programs around prayer times. It took a long time to figure out that if I did anything before al-Asr, that nobody would come, and that everything should be after afternoon prayer. But that's not how things work in places like the US, where I'm from. It's a little different. So this is also something that we should acknowledge, that maybe some of us don't value or understand time the same way as others do. And that it also varies on an individual basis. It's not purely cultural, of course. So now I think I'm done with squatting and talking about root causes. But now we have kind of a full-blown challenge tree here. We're addressing this challenge of ineffective time management. We talked a little bit about the effects that managing our time ineffectively has. And we also did this dive into the root causes of that ineffective time management, and talked about like why that happens. And that's really the vital part, that we need to be able to start solving the problem. Now, if you were doing this kind of on a larger scale, to be able to start planning for a project, a larger scale project. This is a lot of the work that HAF, for example, does, and a lot of other development, NGOs, nonprofits do. You would want to be doing this not by yourself, of course. It's a participatory tool, so you would want to be in a room with as many people from a community as you could be, as many stakeholders and as diverse as they could be, from local authorities to religious leaders to women and youth and educators and entrepreneurs and farmers, and just anyone that you could get in the community that had a stake in that community, that had a stake in a possible project, should be there talking about what is this challenge that we want to address, how does it affect our lives, and what are the root causes of this? Where does this come from? And that is the beginning of starting to kind of address this problem that we might be facing. And again, this is an example of an individual level, a personal level challenge tree. if you will. So this challenge tree is step 1, but there's a step 2. It doesn't end here. So now what we're going to do, I'm going to see if I can use another color. Maybe this orange will work. It's nice and lovely and bright. See if I can open that with one hand, and if it works, I think it's good enough. So what we want to do from here, and again, if you're just joining, I'm Katie. We're drawing trees to address problems and find solutions, currently on a personal and individual level, but it is also a tool that we use in our participatory approach to design and monitor projects here in Morocco. This challenge tree that we've just made, addressing ineffective time management, what we want to do now with that is convert it into a solution tree. Okay, so up here what I'm going to do is I'm going to scratch out challenge, and I'm going to write solution. And now you might do this on a separate sheet of paper. If you're doing your own problem tree or challenge tree, you might want to do a separate solution tree. Maybe don't do it on the same page. That way that you have access to what are the cause and effects on one page and then solutions on a separate page. Right now, I'm going to do this just for the sake of not having to flip this really heavy board back and forth to be able to see the things that we've already written. But if you're doing this on your own, at home, with yourself, with your roommates, with your family, with your church group, with any other civic group that you might be a part of, with your coworkers, I suggest doing them separately, not all in the same space. So the solution tree. Now that we've identified not only the challenge, but the causes and the effects of that challenge or that problem, we want to find a solution. We don't want to just stop there and acknowledge what the challenges are and what the root causes are. We want to try to find a solution. So that's the point of doing this second step, the second tree, a solution tree. And I know I'm being redundant, and I'm really sorry if you're catching on to that. But what we essentially want to do with this is take all of the information that we already took here and basically reverse it. And I'm going to try a word that doesn't exist, positivize it. Take those items and switch them around to where they're reflecting the vision that we have for our communities or for ourselves. And in this example, we'll continue with the individual level just because it's the information that we already have. So I'm going to start with this ineffective time management. This is what we had identified as the challenge that we might be dealing with on a personal level. So what I'm going to do here is keep those words and essentially just flip it around to make the meaning basically the exact opposite. And I'm going to change it to, I don't know if you can see, but effective time management. From ineffective to effective time management. And obviously, effective time management isn't a challenge. It isn't a problem. Well, maybe it's a challenge, but it's not a problem. It's a goal. This is a goal I have for myself. This trunk on a solution tree represents a goal that you might have for your community or for your family or for your company, etc. But for us here, for the purposes of this exercise, this is a goal that we have for ourselves personally. I no longer want to be challenged by ineffective time management. I want to make a goal to become an effective time manager. Okay? So then with this effective time management, how does that affect the rest of the tree and all of the information we've already kind of gathered about this challenge? So if we take a look again at the roots, these roots, they now represent no longer the root causes of a problem. They represent solutions. These are solutions for our challenges. They can also be activities or objectives in order to meet a larger goal. But essentially, we're going to use the words that we already have here and just switch them around It's a simple exercise. There's more that goes into it, but from the start, it's pretty simple. So this root cause of inappropriate workload, we're just going to turn it into appropriate workload. In order to achieve the goal of effective time management, it needs to be an appropriate workload. Not too much, not too little. This lack of organization and accountability, we're just simply going to change that to organization and accountability, like implementation, creation of a system for organization management, task management, and accountability. And also this last one that we have here, and I believe there was a fourth one that I didn't write down. I have here a root cause as being frequent distractions or not setting boundaries. Again, I know it's backwards. I'm sorry. Or not setting boundaries. So we're gonna instead change that to make it a solution instead of a root cause of a problem, is elimination of distractions. Elimination of distractions and setting boundaries. Setting nice boundaries, reasonable boundaries. Hey Abdul Khalik, how are you? I'm so glad you're joining. Abdul Khalik is one of our students in Fez at the law school. Thanks for the thumbs up, man. Okay, so back to our solutions down here in the roots of our solution tree. We've changed inappropriate workload to appropriate workload. We've changed frequent distractions and not setting boundaries to elimination of distractions, and definitely setting reasonable boundaries. And then I think the last one we had talked about, just briefly, understanding and respecting time according to a project, a system, or a culture. Previously said that a root cause to ineffective time management might be that we don't understand or value time in the same way that other people might. And that's okay. We all have our own systems of time. But in order to better manage our time, we should probably try to understand and respect the time and the scheduling happening around us, in order to also respect the people around us, because it will also affect our projects and our relationships, etc. Now, turning back to this solution tree that we're drawing up over here. So we've talked now about solutions, or objectives, which, if we do these things, they will help us to achieve our goal of effective time management. So if we have an appropriate workload, if we establish and create and utilize systems of accountability and task management and organization, if we begin to understand and value time the way people around us do, and if we also prioritize the elimination of distractions and setting reasonable boundaries for ourselves, then maybe we will get to this point where we reach our goal of effectively managing our time. And then what happens when we effectively manage our time? Well, this is where we revisit the branches and the leaves up here. And these stay the same, in that they are the effects of achieving our goal. It's the impact of achieving our goal. So if we achieve our goal of effective time management, then what will happen? If we revisit these negative effects, before I can't see if you can see, sorry. This negative effect of being chronically late, maybe it's eliminated, and maybe we'll become punctual. Instead of always being late, we'll always maybe be on time. Maybe we won't miss deadlines anymore. because we'll have effectively managed that and used tools to be able to do that. Now, another thing, we talked about a negative effect of wasting time. Remember, if you were on the video, on the live broadcast earlier, we talked about dead time and alive time, and that wasting time is essentially creating and passing a lot of dead time. But if we address this and if we achieve our goal, then what will happen is that we, instead of waste time, we optimize time. And what does optimize time mean? It just basically means that we use it to our best advantage and be as alive, as productive and happy as we can in that time. Moving on, we had 2 other negative effects that we want to talk about. Touching my face. We also talked about the quality and quantity of work being diminished. Now, if we achieve the solution goal, this goal of managing our time effectively, then what happens? The quantity, the amount, and the quality of our work will increase. It's just basically the exact opposite, and that's what it should be. If we had negative effects before, we want them to be positive effects now. This is the point of first starting with a challenge tree and now doing a solutions tree. And usually with stakeholders and a group of people, but for the purposes of right now, we're doing it from my apartment in Fez on an ad hoc whiteboard, makeshift whiteboard over here. Okay. And then this last one that I think is really important that we talked about, a negative effect of not managing our time effectively, was a decrease or letting our relationships and our reputation and maybe even our self-image suffer. But if we address this, then basically what happens is those things change and our relationships improve, or maybe our reputation improves, and definitely our self-image and self-confidence improves once we realize that we can manage our time effectively, we can meet deadlines, we can meet people at the time we say we're going to, so that we're not wasting their time while they're waiting for us, etc., etc. So there you have it. We've basically now gone through first a challenge tree, and what was the point of that? To look at a challenge, understand its roots, causes, and the complexities of it, as well as, of course, the effects and the impact that it has, with the purpose of then again looking at those root causes, flipping them over, and seeing how we can solve these challenges to be able to make our lives and the lives of the people we care about and of the global community a better place to be. So this isn't also the end of it. I told you in the beginning that these are 2 steps of several steps. So from here, what you are able to do is look at the roots on the solution tree. Let me show you the roots on the solution tree, which are full of solutions to your problem. And you're able to kind of identify which of those solutions can I implement now? Which of those solutions are accessible to me now? Which of those solutions are most important to me? And how can I act on them? And what should I be doing to work towards this goal that I have in order to address and diminish this challenge that we've identified, either personally, as a family, as a community, whatever have it. So when you're looking at these roots, these solution roots on your solution tree, you can more easily identify how you want to take action, in what order, who should you be working with on this. For example, if I'm looking at this example that we've done together now, if I want to have an appropriate workload, but I'm working 3 jobs, maybe I leave one job, or maybe I ask for less hours, or something of the sort. Or if I feel like I don't have enough work at work, I can ask for more. I can volunteer to help people with other things. If I feel like I want to create and implement or take part in an organization system, like a task management system, or create more accountability for myself, then maybe what I can do is start to learn how to use like one of these fancy online tools for how to manage my tasks, or maybe I just buy an old-fashioned planner to write my to-do lists every day and check them off as I go. Everyone works differently, and sometimes people's preferences change over the course of time. Maybe I'll ask my colleagues or my family to hold me more accountable for the things I need to get done, not only for work, but also in my personal life. Remind me that taxes are due, or etc. It's just examples. Or if I want to eliminate distractions and set boundaries, maybe I can structure my time, or set up a system to where if I'm working on something and I'm in flow and I'm in mode and I'm going and I'm doing it, and I don't want to be distracted, because if I get distracted, then maybe it'll break and it'll be hard to pick up again. Maybe I can implement this system where I have, I don't know, a sign on my cubicle, for example, that's like, do not disturb, will, email me and I'll email you back later. This is a typical office example, but it can be, if you need to study and you live with a bunch of people, maybe tell them, look, I need this time to study. Please leave me to study for an hour, and then after this hour, I'll be all yours. I can help you with anything. I can help you cook. I can go run errands. But maybe right now, if it's okay, I'm going to close the door and I need to study because I have an exam coming up, or something like that. I think this is a pretty good, relevant, personal example on kind of a one-on-one level. If you have people who are close to you, who you would want to involve in that process, even if it's for yourself and to improve your own systems and address your own challenges, then I think that's great, because other people might have a different point of view as you, and that's kind of the whole point of using a participatory exercise, is that everyone comes from a different lived experience, everyone has a different point of view, everyone may need or see things differently or perceive things differently. And so definitely, if you're working on a community level and wanting to do an exercise like this, involve as many people as you can and diversify them as much as possible, because everyone has something different to say, something different to contribute, and different strengths and connections and resources whenever you're actually looking to implement a project. And then the same, if you're in your house and you have a household issue, say you're not happy with the amount of waste your family is producing and putting out on a weekly basis, have a family meeting and draw some trees and, involve your kids and your partners in addressing that issue, and see what solutions you can come up with to be able to address that problem. There are several other examples. They're endless. I have two other things I think I want to say, or three. One is that if you are working in projects and project management, or working on kind of a small scale or a large scale, using a challenge tree and a solution tree is a really, really wonderful kind of first or second step to creating, and I said this I think at the beginning of the call, a log frame for beginning to understand what is your goal, but what are your activities, what are you actually going to be doing, what are your objectives, how do you want to accomplish your goal, what are like your mini goals that you want to accomplish within your overall goal, and then also when you're thinking of the effects, what kind of outcomes do you want? What are the results that you want to achieve? How do you want this to affect people in the long run, whether it's yourself, the people around you, or the entire world, depending on the scale of your project. So if you are out there wanting to do a larger scale project, and you kind of don't know where to start. I know a lot of people, myself included, are when you're kind of new to project design, management, grant writing, it can be a little overwhelming. And using this as a tool with the communities that you're working in is a really wonderful participatory way to start planning your projects and develop those frameworks to be able to convince the people who will support you to support you. Whether those people are funders from the United Nations or your teenager who you want to get on board with you and your composting goal, for example. It's just a really good way to see what the problems are, what solutions are, and kind of figure out the logic between them. And then last things I want to say, just wrap up here and sit down in front of the tree. This is not the last broadcast that we'll be having. As I said before, if you are, if this is your first time tuning in, I'm Katie, project manager with the High Atlas Foundation, based here in Fez. It's really lovely and sunny today. But we, as the staff of the High Atlas Foundation, currently working from home, are so excited for the opportunity to be able to gather with you on this new kind of online platform. I mean, it's new for me. I've never gone live before. It's a little intimidating, but really fun at the same time. There is a program schedule that you can definitely find on the Facebook wall, the High Atlas Foundation Facebook wall. There's a program that kind of goes into more of the dates and the topics and the presenters and a little description of every single topic that we'll be covering. I think there's one more talk tomorrow at 3 p.m. Morocco time. I believe that's 10 a.m. New York East Coast time. And then next week we'll have 4 more broadcasts as well. That time may or may not change because I know I just caught word yesterday that Morocco will be falling back an hour this weekend for Ramadan. But we can update you if there are any changes with the time. But as for now, 3 p.m. Morocco time, 10 a.m. East Coast time, tomorrow, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I'll also be broadcasting again next Friday, April 24th, to talk more about the project I manage here in Fez, which is a legal aid, starting a pro bono legal aid clinic with law students and the law faculty here in Fez to benefit Moroccan families and migrants alike. So tune in then, and hopefully if technologically it works out, I'll have a guest with me. So it just won't be me. And I think that's it. Afterwards, I have a blog post that has more resources, and it's kind of a summary of everything we did today. I also have other examples of how to do a challenge tree and a solution tree on different levels. Today we did the individual level. I also have examples for the household level, talking about waste, and also on the community level, talking about stay-at-home orders, which is really relevant to this current time with coronavirus and with various places having their own measures set in place. Here in Morocco, we're really limited in how often or like why the reasons why we should go out. So I'm trying my best to stay at home as much as possible. It's really interesting you ask that. Bihitasa. That's something we can definitely talk more about. My other option for today, if we wouldn't have talked about effective time management, would have been something more so related to COVID-19. So I do encourage you to check out that blog post as an example of how we can use kind of these current relevant times and apply them in this practice. But it is just an example, of course, and we can talk more about that. If you have specific ideas, let us know, and we can definitely kind of talk about that as a team and get back to you. So if you guys have any other questions. let me know. Great. Bihi, do you have great. We can kind of talk more about that. Do you think it would be beneficial, do you think it would be beneficial to conduct this exercise again together, and focus on that challenge of COVID recovery efforts? Or did you have another idea in mind? We can also provide other ideas and brainstorm and try to hold another session if that's something that more people are interested in doing. I think this is a really important topic and something that we should definitely be talking about. I know it's something we're all experiencing on a global scale right now. It's relevant to all of our lives and affecting all of us in very different ways, but we all feel it and somehow. So I think it'll be a good idea to kind of talk more about that as a way to plan and as a way to kind of work through this process together. I think that that's a lovely idea, and really timely and relevant and important as well. So we'll get back to you on that. But in the meantime, do check out the sessions that we do have planned. Check out the blog post that I'll link later. I'm not sure if it's been published yet, but I'll definitely post it on this thread. And if you have other questions, please leave them in the comments and I can type responses back to you. Or you can ask me again next Friday when I'm back on live. So again, it's been a pleasure being with you. My name is Katie, and I hope that you are doing well and staying safe and healthy in your homes, taking care of yourselves and your families and your community members as best of your abilities as you can right now. So see you next time. Bye, y'all.